and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a TV pilot review and I'll be having a look at the premiere episode of Almost Human. So this is a new high budget TV show starring Karl Urban. And basically it's kind of reminiscent of a sort of cyberpunk Blade Runner type future scenario, and probably a little bit like iRobot as well if you've seen that. So it takes place some years in the future, and basically crime and corruption have kind of got out of control, and technology has spread to sort of black markets, and all sorts of weird and wonderful gadgets and drugs are on the black market. And basically the police are forced to have these sort of android partners, so to speak, that are kind of, you know, more expendable ultimately, and kind of shield human sort of police officers and things like that. And the story focuses on Karl Urban's character called John, who is one such policeman who is, we sort of see in a flashback at the beginning of the show, is basically put in a coma after some kind of attack, some kind of ambush by some bad guys who we kind of refer to as sometimes syndicates. And he's this is 2 years after that incident. He's woken up and been on sort of medical leave for a short time after he's woken up for his coma. Ultimately, for a sort of series of events, he's ended up sort of partnered with this kind of older model sort of android called Dorian, who is basically one of these sort of the Rangers of a few years ago, who is kind of were designed to try and be a little bit more human than the kind of the more modern androids. It was a much more sort of logical and more robotic. Anyway, and it's basically there's some connection to kind of a recent crime compared to these guys who may have ambushed John previously, and it's up to sort of John and Dorian to kind of find out the connection, and ultimately it leads to a plot where these sort of bad guys are ultimately trying to kind of retrieve a piece of evidence and are basically killing, willing to kill dozens of police officers to get it. And it really is a very, very packed episode. It almost feels like you're kind of watching a whole movie in the kind of the space of a 45 minutes episode. So I have to say, it really does pack a lot in there. And I kind of skipped over the kind of plot in any great detail. I'm sure you've obviously watched it if you're watching this review. So, really good pilot episode, I have to say. It's a show I'm definitely going to be watching. Obviously, you've got some really good talent in front of the camera here, first of all. Obviously, Karl Urban, he's a fan favourite among sort of geeks. He's obviously Judge Dredd, who's in the Star Trek movies, he's in Lord of the Rings. So he's done a whole bunch of stuff that, that is kind of a fan favourite, sort of geek-related films. But you've also got sort of a great supporting cast as well. Lily Taylor, who's kind of the kind of police captain. You've got Mackenzie Crook as well, who's the sort of like this inventor guy. I'm not sure the actor's name who plays Dorian, but I've seen him in a few things as well. So it's pretty good. They do a really good job of world building, I have to say. We sort of see, and again, like I say, there's a hell of a lot of plot in this sort of 45-minute pilot, but they do sort of fit time to actually sort of show a little bit of the world, and there's a variety of different kind of like futuristic looking sort of transport types and kind of buildings and stuff like that. So it does a decent job of kind of giving you a kind of a good feeling of this sort of cyberpunky sort of futuristic world. And it's really good. Special effects for a TV budget, again, very, very good. Acting good. There's really very little negative to say about these things. Now, if I had to kind of maybe have a couple of little nitpicks, but it's a kind of minor nitpicks. I'm really having to sort of scrape the bottom of the barrel, so to speak, to really have anything to say bad about this pilot. It really is a very, very good pilot. And I have to say, some of the dialogue maybe here and there was a little bit cheesy, particularly sort of at the beginning of the episode. It's a little bit cliche here and there. And I have to say, I guess the only other thing is that the way that sort of Dorian is made, who is the kind of the android partner that sort of John inevitably sort of bonds to over the course of the episode, he just seems a little bit too human, perhaps, when you compare it to the kind of the MX models, which are apparently the more recent models, and you would have thought obviously slightly better technology. They kind of seem just a little bit more useless almost than compared to this Dorian model, who just seems to be pretty much artificial intelligence. He's pretty much got a mind of his own, and it kind of, I don't know, it just made me think maybe he's a little bit too human. I mean, obviously that's the whole kind of title of the show. Obviously, they're almost human, but it just means it just kind of maybe seems he doesn't seem like an android at all. Almost, he almost seems kind of just like a guy. He's the way he reacts, and the whole point is that he's one of these sort of this model that is kind of has this sort of a more emotional range like a human. And it's it's a minor. It's not really a complaint almost. It's just more of an observation, if anything. But really, apart from a couple of instances where he's kind of like sort of injecting things into his into his neck to sort of analyse it and stuff like that he ever really comes across as anything other than human. To be quite honest, I think maybe they should have made him a little bit more robotic. I've only watched the pilot episode. As I've watched this, I know there's been a second episode out, so I've not managed to watch that yet. So we'll see how this goes on. But that's really it. It's more of an observation rather than a complaint. I thought this was a really decent TV show. Now, actually, I've seen movies that are far less, good a quality as this. So I'm going to go high. So I'm going to go 9 out of 10. I thought it was a really decent show. And if you're a fan of sci-fi, or really of any iteration, I strongly recommend checking this show out. Really, really good. 9 out of 10. What did you thought about it? Any sort of complaints from you guys? Leave me a comment. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.